It hurts, doesn't it, the way you're still holding on to things that never cared enough to hold on to you? You don't say it out loud, but you feel it every day, this quiet weight inside you, this invisible pressure in your chest that makes letting go feel impossible. You tell yourself you're strong, that you've moved on, that you don't care anymore, but somewhere inside you something still pulls at you. A memory, a voice, a habit, a fear, a wound you never asked for but somehow learned to live with, and I know you're tired of pretending you're unaffected. I know you're tired of telling yourself you don't think about it anymore, even though you do. You think about the moments you stayed silent, the times you apologized first, the times you bent yourself into versions that were easier for someone else to love. You remember the confusion, the mixed signals, the sudden coldness, the invisible punishments, the manipulation disguised as concern. You remember wondering if you were the problem. You remember believing them when they told you that you were. And a part of you still wonders if letting go means admitting you were wrong. If stepping forward means losing something you invested so much of your heart into. But here's the truth you've avoided for so long. You didn't fail. You weren't weak. You didn't stay because you lacked strength. You stayed because you cared. And people who care deeply often become the easiest ones to break. That's how dark psychology works. It doesn't come at you like a storm. It doesn't scream. It doesn't destroy you in one blow. It erodes you quietly, subtly, slowly. It starts with small doubts, small criticisms, small comments meant to shape your behavior without you noticing. Emotional abuse rarely begins with shouting. It begins with silence, withdrawal, a cold shoulder used as a weapon, a little disappointment in their tone after you finally did something for yourself. You learn to adjust, to shrink, to avoid conflict by becoming the version of yourself that causes the least resistance. And every time you change to maintain peace, you lose another piece of who you were before the manipulation. You began to question your emotional reality because they questioned it first. You began to distrust your intuition because they made you believe your instincts were overreactions. They didn't need to convince you they were right. They only needed to convince you that you weren't confident, that you couldn't trust your own mind. That's the core of mind games, slow conditioning, that teaches you to ignore yourself. When someone guilt trips you enough times, you start absorbing the guilt before they even speak. When someone uses gaslighting as a tool, you begin to rewrite your memories so they feel easier to accept. When someone threatens to leave every time you try to express your needs, you eventually stop having needs altogether. This is why letting go feels so difficult, because you're not just letting go of a person, you're letting go of the version of yourself that learned to survive around them. And survival, no matter how painful, still feels familiar. Trauma bonding isn't about love. It's about the cycle of tension and relief. The anxiety followed by affection, the fear followed by tenderness. Your nervous system mistook unpredictability for passion. It mistook inconsistency for importance. It mistook emotional starvation for something meaningful. And after enough cycles, you began to crave the very person who caused the wound because they were also the one who occasionally soothed it. But deep inside you, something has been trying to speak, a quiet voice you drowned out for years, a voice that whispered you deserved better long before you believed it, a voice that knew the truth even when you didn't want to hear it. And that voice is still here, waiting, watching, asking you one painful question. How long will you keep holding on to something that only grows heavier when you do? Letting go isn't an act of forgetting. It isn't a moment of sudden empowerment. It's a slow acceptance that certain people were never meant to carry the weight of your loyalty. It's realizing that manipulation doesn't always look like control. Sometimes it looks like needing you. Sometimes it looks like someone who keeps you close enough to use you, but distant enough to never choose you. Sometimes it looks like confusion, not cruelty. But confusion is a form of control too, and you've lived in that fog for far too long. You learned to tolerate behaviors that should have been red flags. You minimized your own emotional bruises because you were taught that your hurt was an inconvenience. You stayed in toxic relationships because leaving felt like betraying the story you told yourself about them. You kept trying to fix things that weren't broken. They were just never healthy to begin with. And yet you're here, listening, reflecting, feeling something shift inside you, even if you're not ready to name it. That shift is self, worth trying to resurface. That shift is emotional clarity, waking up after years of silence. That shift is the beginning of letting go, not by force, not by anger, not by numbing yourself, but by understanding how human behavior works and how your mind was shaped by the patterns you lived through. You were conditioned to hold on, conditioned to accept less, conditioned to believe that if you were just a little easier, a little quieter, a little more patient, you would finally be enough. But you were always enough. You were simply giving your value to someone who never recognized it. That's not on you. That's on them, and the moment you embrace the unknown, the moment you accept that the future doesn't need to resemble the past, you begin to reclaim every piece of yourself that was taken. Letting go is uncomfortable because it breaks the cycle your brain became wired to expect. Peace can feel like emptiness when chaos was your normal. Stability can feel like boredom when unpredictability was your addiction. But you are learning. You are detoxing from emotional manipulation. You are stepping away from the mind games that rewired your sense of reality. You are unlearning the lies you were taught about your worth. And even if it doesn't feel like strength yet, it will. Slowly, you start noticing the red flags you used to ignore, the subtle shifts in tone, the quiet forms of control, the emotional withdrawals disguised as boundaries, the selfishness disguised as honesty, the criticism disguised as concern. You start recognizing toxic relationships before they consume you. You start trusting your instincts again. You start protecting your emotions instead of apologizing for them. And with every boundary you rebuild, with every moment you choose clarity over confusion, you take back the parts of yourself you once handed away. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about yourself more. It means you stop negotiating your worth for the privilege of being tolerated. It means you finally understand that love without safety is not love, it's endurance, and you've endured enough. The unknown may feel frightening, but it's where your healing begins. It's where your self-worth grows back. It's where your future stops being shaped by the damage of your past. So breathe, slowly, deeply, quietly. Let the weight you've been carrying settle for a moment. You don't have to release it all at once. You don't have to erase the memories or rewrite the story. You only have to accept that you deserve a life that doesn't require you to lose yourself in order to feel wanted. And when you finally let go, not through force, but through understanding, you'll feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Not happiness, not excitement, not relief, but clarity, a softness, a calmness that doesn't rush you or demand anything from you. A quiet knowing that you were never broken, just conditioned to doubt your own strength. And as that calm fills the spaces where chaos once lived, you'll realize something profound. Life truly does get easier the moment you embrace the unknown. Because the unknown isn't empty, it isn't dangerous, it isn't a void, it's freedom, it's possibility. It's the first place where you belong entirely to yourself again. And when that moment arrives, when you finally feel yourself returning to the person you were meant to be, you'll understand why letting go was never a loss. It was the beginning, and so you take a breath, and you step forward gently, quietly, into a future that no longer hurts to imagine.